about to take you guys on a little journey, a journey that Stephan Sterns took. He took it on Monday and Tuesday, two pivotal days. Monday, February 26th, the day that Madeline Soto was reported missing, and Tuesday, February 27th. At least cops think it might have been him driving Jennifer Soto's Nissan that Tuesday. But first, I want to read to you the highlights of the CARFAX I just purchased maybe weeks ago. Just like I did when I purchased Jennifer Soto's CARFAX report regarding her white Nissan 2022 newer vehicle, I went ahead and purchased this 2010 Lincoln MKZ CARFAX report. And yes, I will tell you guys how much I paid for it, $48.03. I'm not being petty. I'm not trying to be petty. This one member made a comment, "Girl, stop telling everybody how much you pay for stuff." Anyway, I find expenses fascinating when it comes to FOIAs, when it comes to research. I encourage other people to start true crime YouTube channels, and I like you guys to know what goes on behind the scenes, and a lot of you guys obviously find it fascinating too. So she just said, unsubscribing. I'm thinking to myself, it's fine, it's okay, God bless you. Anyway, so I paid $48.03 for this CARFAX report, but to tell you guys the truth, there's not much in it. I mean, it's 15 pages. I will link to it below. But this Lincoln MKZ was pivotal in this case. Obviously, cops were paying tons of attention to this vehicle since Stephan drove it in the commission of the crime. So it has a retail value of almost $5,000. I think cops might still have it. Now, I don't know who owned it first. It looks like it was a prior owner. I don't know if that prior owner was Stephan Sterns' dad, Chris Sterns, or someone else. But I won't bore you with all of it. There were accidents reported. There were 16 service history records. Now, back in 2015, there was an accident reported. There was an accident reported with another motor vehicle, but the airbags did not deploy. There was damage in 2018. So if you want to go through all of this, owner number one purchased this pivotal vehicle in 2009, and owner number two came along in 2016 and purchased this vehicle. Both owners were in the state of Florida. So if you're interested in all that, find the link below. It tells you the dealers. I do remember Chris Sterns talking about Stephan not really getting the car serviced as it should. And I do see servicing taking place in Boca Raton, Florida. That reminds me of a song they used to sing when I was in Tallahassee. It was like Boca Raton. So I know how to say that. And Delray Beach, Orlando, Windermere, Florida in 2018. There's a damage report, damage to the front of the vehicle. I don't know if Stephan Sterns did all this damage or someone else. And eventually there was some servicing happening in Northport, Florida. So, you know, Stephan's dad was probably taking care of that for him. I'll leave that link below. The majority of this video, I started being really fascinated with this animated route map, just plugging in all the information we know about Stephan Sterns' movements that Monday and that Tuesday. We know he was arrested that Wednesday, February 28th. So he wasn't driving too many places other than down around his parents' home in Northport. My main focus here are all the movements that Monday and Tuesday, Stephan transporting Maddie around, not alive, deciding most likely where to place her, returning to the scene where he left her, the questions about why did he do these things, and did anyone else know what he was doing? That's the main focus. I'm trying to pay attention to my posture. Someone else wrote a kinder comment than the other one. Girl, watch your posture. All these people, some of them are like, girl this, girl that. Some are kinder than others. I'm thinking some of these people, do you talk to your friends in real life this way? Constructive criticism is one thing. That's why I tend to only read comments from members. That's my priority, reply to members. And then sometimes I'll catch other comments as well. My heart can't take some of them. So that's why I stay away for my own mental health and to continue with this channel. But some people, I really wonder, do you talk to your friends in real life that way? Do you have any friends in real life? Anyway, let's go through this route and see visually, like a Google Maps drive, Stephan driving these long ways, these long routes, the routes he most likely took and the routes that cops know he definitely took because he was caught on LPR, license plate readers, or he was caught on surveillance video. Some of them, of course, we've never seen. but eventually maybe we will. And what was his whole process? What was his thought process throughout it all? That is what I've been working on today, while we're waiting for all these other things that are in the queue that are still on their way coming from Florida. So take a look at this whole circuitous route and movements, and let's talk about it more.
There were two main vehicles that stood out in the case of Madeline Soto. Her would-be stepfather, Stephan Sterns, did a whole bunch of driving on Monday, February 26th, 2024, the day she was reported missing, and also on February 27th. That was a Tuesday, the day before he was arrested. Well, cops were really focused on two vehicle license plates for two vehicles that were suspected to be involved in the case. There was the 2010 silver Lincoln MKZ that Stephan Sterns was driving, and then there was Jennifer's white Nissan, a newer vehicle, both with Florida license plates. They ran those vehicles through the Vigilant license plate reader, and they got several hits. Well, just like I did before for Jennifer's vehicle when I got the CARFAX report, I did the same with Stephan Sterns' vehicle, that Lincoln MKZ he was driving, but I didn't find much. You can get it at the link below if you want. It just shows a prior owner, probably prior to Stephan's parents buying the car, and not much else. Just some rear front damage, a couple of accidents. It has not been renewed. It has not been re-registered as of this recording. Perhaps police still have it in their custody. For this video, I wanted to focus on all the ways cops were able to use technology and LPR readers and everything, surveillance videos, to disprove the things that Stephan Sterns was telling them. He was claiming he was just meandering around and lost that Monday morning, deciding whether or not to get McDonald's for Maddie, who allegedly changed her mind and all that. So cops were not buying it, and once they got the technology, they were able to disprove and even confront Stephan Sterns with his path of travel. So let's visually take a look at that path of travel that Stephan took, starting Monday morning, February 26th. When the reports say at 7:35 a.m., the silver Lincoln MKZ was observed on the workshop camera of the condo complex that Stephan lived in with Jennifer Soto and Madeline Soto. A male exits the vehicle and he throws something into the complex dumpster. The male, presumed to be Stephan Sterns, was wearing a red shirt and tan pants. Now 5 minutes later, at 7:40 a.m., the vehicle leaves through the east gate of the complex. A different report explains that surveillance footage caught him wearing a red shirt again, leaving the complex in his 2010 Lincoln MKZ through the rear gate at 7:50 a.m. So it's 10 minutes off, but he was with a female wearing a green sweater. We know now that's a green hoodie in the front seat. This person appeared to be sitting upright with her head slumped over to her left side. Nearly half an hour later, at 8:19 a.m., detectives observed via video a male wearing a red shirt re-entering the complex through the front gate near North Hoagland Boulevard in that silver Lincoln with someone in the front passenger seat, once again wearing that green sweater, once again slumped over. This is when Stephan Sterns claimed he needed to come back home to get his clicker. Now, about 12 minutes later, at 8:31 a.m., the male wearing the red shirt leaves the complex again through the rear gate with the female in the front passenger completely slumped over to the left. This is when Stephan Sterns takes that long drive. Now this nearly 10-mile drive from the condo he shared with Maddie and Jennifer would have taken Stephan Sterns about 25 minutes. Did he know where he was going? Was he really driving around aimlessly deciding what to do with Madeline? Where to hide her? How to hide her? It appears as if he wasn't ready to get rid of her. How did he know to go to this particular location? Had he been there before? It was early in the morning, yes, but did anyone else observe Madeline in the passenger seat? Did they think she looked weird, slumped all over like that next to Stephan? Was he freaking out? Was he calm as he just meandered his way all along these avenues back onto John Young Parkway once again, deciding where to go, somewhere he thought would be a surreptitious private place? But of course, there are cameras everywhere in 2024. And thankfully, he was caught on camera moving Madeline from the front passenger seat to the trunk. This type of evidence is irrefutable, and a jury will have to view what they have, and decide Stephan Sterns' fate. But on that fateful Monday, February 26, what was going through Stephan's mind as he drove and drove and drove, probably encountering morning rush hour traffic, hoping no one would notice that the newly teenage girl right next to him in the passenger seat slumped over wasn't just sleeping. Detectives could see that from the surveillance video. What did other people sitting right there next to him in traffic believe? He drove for so long, nearly 10 miles, until he finally ended up at this holiday club's vacation parking lot and decided to go all the way up to the top floor and try and hide as he moved Madeline's body. But it didn't work. He was discovered. This whole time driving around, meandering around. Had he been to this place before? Is that why he chose that location? Ironically, there was just a cross on the side of the road there. What was the weather like that day? Did it look similar to this? Eventually, he made his way to that parking lot garage. Maybe Stephan Sterns realized he could not just keep driving and driving and driving with Madeline right there by his side. Is this when he came up with the words to that poem? Always. Who could do this? Just like Chris Watts, he had so much time driving around to turn himself in, but instead he ended up here. According to page 87 of an Orange County Sheriff's Office report, violent crimes detective Leonard Jones observed surveillance footage that revealed by 9:40 a.m., Sterns' vehicle turned onto the Holiday Inn Club's Vacations located at 9271 South John Young Parkway in Orlando from Emissary Avenue, then proceeded to the parking garage. At 9:41 a.m., the vehicle arrived on the top level of the parking garage, then backed into a parking space. At 9:42 a.m., a fair-skinned male wearing what appeared to be a dark hat, a reddish shirt, and once again tan pants, exited the vehicle from the driver's seat, then walked to the back of the vehicle, opened the trunk. The male walked to the passenger side of the vehicle, opened the door, proceeded to carry what appeared to be a limp female body to the trunk of the vehicle. At approximately 9:44 a.m., the same male subject entered the driver's seat of the same vehicle, then drove away. Stephan apparently headed from that Holiday Inn Club's Vacation back to the condo, because at 10:14 a.m., the silver Lincoln MKZ enters the complex through the east gate of the complex. And 40 minutes later, at 10:54 a.m., the silver Lincoln MKZ parks again by the workshop near the complex dumpster. Now, this male was wearing a blue shirt, and again he throws something into the complex dumpster. He probably changed shirts in an attempt to rid himself of Madeline's DNA or any other substances he had gotten on himself when he was transferring her from the front passenger seat to the trunk. At 11:03 a.m., the silver MKZ is observed passing the intersection of San Sebastian and San Vital within the complex. Then he exited the complex through the main gate. By 11:56 a.m., a silver Lincoln MKZ enters through the rear gate of the complex with a male driver consistent with the driver on the previous recordings. Now this is where Stephan is going to start a drive at 12:44 when investigators are able to now track the vehicle through each intersection that had available traffic cameras. What's most shocking about this journey thus far that began around 7:35 a.m., 7:40 a.m. that Monday, February 26th, is that this entire time detectives believe Stephan could have had Madeline with him there in the Lincoln unalive, at one point transferring her, of course, to the trunk, but then returning back to the condo and perhaps leaving her there in the trunk while he went inside and just chatted about his day thus far with Jennifer after she made it back from her so-called blood appointment. How aptly named was that appointment? It may have been approximately 5 hours that Sterns had Madeline in that car, deciding what to do with her. His journey started around 7:30 a.m. that day, and even though cops have a lot of details of his travels in the next few hours, as you'll see, they did kind of lose him. Around 1:16 p.m. or so, perhaps it was around 1:30 p.m. or so, when Stephan discarded Madeline along Old Hickory Tree Drive. Eventually, the cops would pick back up on Sterns' travel at about 2:11 p.m., and the vehicle at that point now had a spare tire on the rear driver's side. So it was sometime in between that time when they believe Stephan discarded of Maddie. But I'm even more fascinated in that time period that Stephan came home with Maddie, right there resting in his trunk, not Jennifer's trunk. Was she really oblivious to everything? Was Stephan really just sitting there at her computer and they just chatted about normal things and he made up the ruse that he accidentally factory reset his phone at that point? After all, it was around noon or later that he did that the first time. The next time would be midnight. 12 hours later. But I can see different scenarios playing out. Was Stephan sitting there all nervous as all get out, not telling a mother that he had her only child, her daughter, in his trunk? Was he trying to play it off? Or what could be another likely scenario, was he confused, telling Jennifer, I don't know where to put her, I don't know where to place her, where do you think I should place her? Place the body, or stash the body, as Jennifer called Maddie in her interviews. The real questions are, was Jennifer really oblivious to all of Stephan's actions during these crucial hours where Maddie just rested in the arms of her Savior Jesus, not alone in that trunk, but with the Lord right there, taking her spirit up much higher than we can imagine, ask, or dream? Did Stephan hold all these secrets inside from her mother, coming up with his own plan in his own mind to drive, tell Jennifer he was driving up and down 192. He was lost. He was without his phone. He was meandering. He was getting vape juice. He was doing all these things he claimed to the cops that he was doing. But they knew better right away. It's very hard to hide from technology, license plate readers, and everything in this day and age. Was Jennifer in on the plotting and planning? If so, why is Stephan still keeping it all a secret? Or is he? Will he turn on her? Will he roll on her? Did they decide together that he would take the MKZ, the so-called poodle ambulance, as Chris Sterns named it? Did he decide to take that older car for a specific reason, when normally Stephan might drive Jennifer's car? Now, we've heard Jennifer say Stephan didn't really drive her car often, or she didn't like for him to drive her car because he wasn't on the insurance. But if you hearken back to their neighbor's interview, the Belmores, they spoke of seeing Stephan walking to the white car at certain points over that weekend or what have you, prior to Maddie's disappearance. Was he just walking to the white car to place something in that car, or was he driving it like he would drive Jennifer's car back to the same location the next day, Tuesday, February 27th. What were those critical conversations about? And did Stephan pull the wool over Jennifer's eyes? Did he pretend like Maddie was alive when he left and she really turned down McDonald's and he really dropped her off close to school? Was Jennifer believing all this? And then did he go on to say, "Oops, I factory reset my phone, honey"? Did she believe this? And then it was time for him to go back out again and run errands. Did Jennifer believe he was just running errands and he really wouldn't make it back home until after she left 1 hour early to go pick up Maddie from Hunters Creek Middle School? It's possible, but not all things are probable. Wouldn't you like to be a fly on the wall of that conversation after Jennifer's blood appointment, but before Stephan left to go lay Maddie down among some bamboo, probably hoping no one would find her? We're going to take a look at the drive he made out to that old hickory tree road, where some say it was the finger of God that he got a flat tire. Perhaps he was planning on driving Maddie farther, much, much, much farther. Had he talked about that in his own mind, or had he spoken about that with Jennifer? Did he or they collectively decide to take Maddie somewhere in the Everglades, or where Alligator Alley might be? Did he plan to drive her and discard her much, much farther away than he did? Potentially, but the beautiful flat tire stopped him from doing so and made him more of a target for witnesses to see what he was wearing, if not what he was doing, along Old Hickory Tree Road. And why did he decide the next day to go back? At a certain point, detectives would put trackers on both of these vehicles that are at the center of this case. Apparently, it seems like Jennifer got her vehicle back. Maybe it wasn't as crucial of an element or character in this crime case as the Lincoln MKZ was, because it literally transported Madeline to the bamboo. What do you believe they discussed? Did they come up with a plan to take Maddie somewhere very far away, perhaps in southern Florida? And then Stephan could have pretended or made a ruse that he tried to make his way back to Jennifer in order for them to pick up Maddie together at 2:30. And by the way, how many times had Stephan and Jennifer picked up Maddie together from school? Was this the first time, or was that a common routine? These are questions that I hope we discover via discovery. But I believe his plan failed. He had to leave Maddie in a more open place where she could readily be found by March 1st. But let's take a look at his drive at 12:44 p.m. that day. So let's take a look at the path that Stephan Sterns would have traveled. At 12:44, the silver Lincoln MKZ again exits the rear gate of the complex. As I had a later LPR hit in the St. Cloud area, I tracked the vehicle through each intersection I had available traffic cameras. As these cameras are overhead views, I utilized marker vehicles, other vehicles following the same path, and the time frame of the vehicle passing each intersection to locate the vehicle at each new location. The approximate times and locations of the corresponding intersection crossings are as follows. So this is where Stephan was at 12:49, Dyer Boulevard and West Vine Street. At 12:50, he was at North Emory Avenue and West Vine Street. I wonder how fast he traveled and what his thoughts were as he transported Maddie along with him along this busy route. And here comes the infamous John Young Parkway that is often mentioned in the interviews. Now, from John Young Parkway, Stephan had a very long drive ahead of him, a drive that would have taken him approximately 40 minutes to complete. It was more than 20 miles. So he drove from John Young Parkway. He was spotted through different intersections on Fortune Road, on Bill Beck Boulevard. There was a license plate reader tag hit for his car at St. Cloud Commons, located near Simmons Road. This was about 1:06 p.m. that day, that Monday. He kept driving through Sergeant Graham Drive. He stayed on 13th Street quite a bit eventually, as 1:08 p.m. bled into 1:09 p.m. and beyond. Eventually, he kept making his way along 13th Street, through different avenues, some named after states. He would pass through Vermont Avenue, New York Avenue, Michigan Avenue, Delaware Avenue, Mississippi Avenue, but then eventually he would make a change. He would depart from 13th Street. According to the discovery, the detective could not locate Stephan's vehicle continuing to travel along this eastbound path at future intersections, so the detective checked surrounding cameras to where the vehicle was last observed. Eventually, he located a similar size, style, and color vehicle past Creative Inspirations, located at 2030 Old Hickory Tree Drive in St. Cloud, Florida. There was a camera facing Old Hickory Tree Drive just south of 13th Street. The vehicle would pass that location at 1:16 p.m. that Monday, and that would correlate to the last intersection passed and the time frame. The detective did not have access to any cameras further along this path of travel. But watching forward, the detective located the vehicle return northbound on Old Hickory Tree Drive and turn west eventually onto 13th Street in an apparent eventual return path at 2:11 p.m. that Monday. The detective would shrewdly notice that Stephan's car now had a spare tire on the rear driver's side. After Stephan made his way out to Old Hickory Tree Drive, eventually he made his return path towards the condo. By 2:12 p.m. he was seen on Mississippi Avenue and 13th Street. He would take that 13th Street route past all of those state-named streets once more. Delaware Avenue, Michigan Avenue, New York Avenue, and so on. All the way until the vehicle was observed returning through the rear gate of the Venetian Bay apartment complex at 2:43 p.m. that Monday. Now here the map is showing the route getting closer to Hickory Tree Road, eventually to the location where Stephan would apparently get a flat tire and decide to discard Maddie along the road along the way. Not too far from Pearl Lake, near Alligator Lake. Was Alligator Lake his destination or somewhere else? It's passing Alligator Lake Road now. Was Sterns getting desperate? Did he get the flat tire and did he continue to drive on that flat tire until he saw Hickory Tree Road, a more isolated, desolate place where he thought he wouldn't be seen, and decide to pull over, change the tire, but discard of Maddie somewhere in the process? What's weird is the return trip. In essence, the exact same trip out to this location the next day. But first, that same Monday night, at 3:24 p.m., the Lincoln MKZ returned to the workshop area where the same man, Stephan Sterns, threw something away into the dumpster. He leaves and then immediately returns at 3:28 p.m. with more items to throw away and again at 4:36 p.m. with more items to throw away. Similarly, cops developed a vehicle movement profile for the white Nissan. And based on that findings, the very next day, Tuesday, February 27th, 2024, the white Nissan took this same path that the Lincoln MKZ would take the previous day. And the question is, why? What was Stephan doing, returning to the scene of the crime, if it was in fact him, at approximately 3:18 p.m., ultimately ending up on Old Hickory Tree Road again at 3:35 p.m. that Tuesday, and then return the same path from Old Hickory Tree Road back to the Venetian Bay apartment complex by 4:30 p.m.
Okay, now that we've watched all of that, what do you think Stephan Sterns' motivation was for doing the things he did, for holding on to Maddie for so long, Monday morning until he finally just placed her somewhere? Did the flat tire, his lack of responsibility, you know how they say an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure? Well, Stephan probably never had the tires rotated. Stephan probably wasn't the one getting the tires rotated. He probably wasn't the one getting the tires replaced. He probably wasn't practicing upkeep on his vehicle, the poodle ambulance, as Chris Sterns called it. And so Stephan was probably a lot more into Tamagotchis and Warhammer 40K and all these other nefarious things instead of just maintaining his vehicle. And that probably came back to bite him in the butt, in the worst way, but also in the best way. So he got a flat tire when he was up to no good. And that way, many people, or at least several, got to witness what he was doing. That, combined with the cops putting these trackers on the car, probably all helped the cops figure out, okay, where did he exactly place Maddie? And they got him dead to rights. But where do you think he was taking her? Why do you think it took so long for him to dispose of her on Monday? And do you think, like I started, speculating today, did he plan to drive her much, much farther away somewhere? Maybe even in South Florida? Maybe well past Northport? Where was he going? I don't know. Where was he planning on taking her? And did those plans go awry just because of the flat tire? These are things to think about. When he still had Maddie there, unfortunately, in the trunk of the Lincoln, and he's going inside talking to Jennifer, did Jennifer have any inkling of what was going on? Part of my brain thinks she might have. She very well might have known. And was she directing him like this Svengali? Take her here, take her there, take her where the alligators are. Or did she have no clue what her boyfriend, on-again, off-again boyfriend, was up to? And secondly, that Tuesday, why did he go back? If it was Stephan driving the Nissan, why did he go back to the scene of the crime? Did he want to move Maddie? Did he move Maddie anywhere? If he did, he didn't seem to move her far. He just went back to the same place, it seems. What was he doing? I shudder to think. And then by Wednesday, when he's traveling all around, going down to his parents' place, near his parents' place in Northport, logging into Google, was his sole aim just to try and delete evidence. Now, Stephan Sterns has a whole different story as to the reasons for his travels. We know he told the cops, I was meandering around, I was getting lost, I was going here, I was going there. Let Stephan tell it, he has no idea where he was. But eventually he did tell his dad that his plan was to take his own life. That's why he went back, wherever, to the scene of the crime or to his parents' home to retrieve a weapon. You can't trust anything Stephan Sterns is saying. I trust more so the cops' findings in these reports and the license plate readers and surveillance footage much more than anything Stephan Sterns says. And that includes Jennifer Soto too. So it'll be fascinating when we get more and more detailed information about his movements, any interviews, any words we're missing. Stay tuned. Let's close with Hebrews 9:13 through 14. For if the sprinkling of ceremonially defiled persons with the blood of goats and bulls and the ashes of a burnt heifer is sufficient for the cleansing of the body, how much more will the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Holy Spirit willingly offered himself unblemished, that is, without moral or spiritual imperfection as a sacrifice to God, cleanse your conscience from dead works and lifeless observances to serve the ever-living God. What a prayer. That's my prayer. Cleanse me, my conscience, from any dead works, anything I shouldn't be doing. I don't want to do it. Like I just listened to Casey Musgraves. Musgraves? I love her. As I came from the gym, deeper well. She's like, I used to wake and bake and do this. I thought I had to be high and everything, but I found a deeper well. That's what it's all about. Keep me and keep others, keep everyone away from lifeless observances to serve the ever-living God. Obviously, Stephan Sterns didn't live that way. He practiced a lot of dead and evil works and lifeless observances. There was nothing wrong with hobbies, don't get me wrong, but obviously his hobbies were not the kind he should have been practicing. So thanks for watching all this, and stay tuned for more. When we get more, you will know it. Take care.